How many people were killed in the name of Christianity? Now, I'm not talking about harassing or killing people of other religions just because they don't align with Western Christian values. I'm talking about actual mandated, law-backed, bureaucratic military campaigns carried out in the name of Christianity or to uphold and protect Christian identity throughout history, mostly approved or even influenced by mainstream Christian churches. Just to see if God-fearing Christians actually give a fuck, considering Jesus specifically told them not to kill. A little spoiler warning, the numbers are insane. If Jesus comes back right now and sees just how many people have been slaughtered in his name, he would probably request to get crucified one more time. Possibly the most famous case of mass slaughter in the name of Christianity were by far the Crusades. Between 1.5 and 2.5 million people died across all campaigns. The First Crusade alone killed up to 1 million, including about 70,000 civilians in Jerusalem and thousands of Jews in Rhineland massacres. The Second Crusade was smaller but still cost around 50 to 100,000 lives. The Third Crusade, Richard the Lionheart versus Saladin, left another 100,000 to 150,000 dead, including the infamous execution of 2,700 Muslim prisoners at Acre. But the Crusades weren't just Muslims versus Christians because friendly fire was very much present. The Fourth Crusade sacked Constantinople, killing up to 200,000 Byzantine Christians. How the fuck do you pronounce this? This crusade wiped out around 200,000 Cathar Christians in southern France. And of course, not to forget the hundreds of thousands that died from starvation, slavery, and disease after the wars. Total death count, 6 to 10 million. But hey, at least now Indians running Tradwest accounts have some talking point to use against Muslims.
Am I saying that with Christianity comes peace? No, I'm not.
Bruh.
From the Middle Ages through the early modern era, Christianity sanctioned waves of persecution against those deemed heretics, witches, or enemies of the faith, though the scale is often exaggerated in popular memory. Beginning in the 5th century, heresy trials led to thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of executions, with secular authorities carrying out sentences handed down by church courts.
We have found the witch, may we burn her?
The medieval and later Inquisitions, including the Spanish and Roman branches, oversaw brutal interrogations and punishments, but far fewer executions than once believed. Modern research estimates around 3,000 to 5,000 deaths for the Spanish Inquisitions and only 7,000 more across all Inquisitions combined between the 13th and 19th century. By contrast, the witch hunts of the 15th to 18th century proved far deadlier, with roughly 100,000 people tried and 40 to 60,000 executed, mostly in Central Europe. Altogether, across heresy trials, inquisitions, and witch hunts, the number of deaths tied directly to these Christian persecutions falls in the range of about 50 to 100,000 over a millennium. When European empires spread Christianity overseas, they didn't just bring priests and Bibles, they brought armies, disease, and forced conversions. In the Americas, the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors was catastrophic. Between 1492 and 1600, the indigenous population of the Americas collapsed from an estimate 50 to 60 million to around 6 million. Meanwhile, old world diseases like smallpox and measles were devastating. Colonizers also massacred entire communities, enslaved survivors, and forced conversions through missions and violence. In Africa, European missionaries marched hand in hand with colonizers. The transatlantic slave trade tore over 12 million Africans from their homelands, many justified by Christian rhetoric of saving souls or civilizing heathens, with forced baptisms common before the Middle Passage. In Asia and Oceania, similar patterns unfolded. In the Philippines, Spanish missionaries baptized millions, often under the threat of violence. In Australia, indigenous children were taken from their families in the stolen generation, raised in Christian missions where their languages and cultures were systematically erased. Christianity was wielded everywhere as both a sword to conquer and a shield to justify conquest. By the end of the colonial era, the religion had spread globally, but at an enormous human cost. Estimated death toll from the direct killings, forced labor, massacres, and conquest-linked violence, roughly 5 to 15 million. With the broader demographic collapse, including disease, bringing total losses in the Americas alone to 50 to 60 million.
For as a Christian, I have also a duty to my own people. When I go out in the morning and see these men standing in their queues and look into their pinched faces, then I believe I would be no Christian, but a very devil if I felt no pity for them.
Of course, the Holocaust didn't just happen in a vacuum, it had foundation. Centuries of it. Christians blamed Jews for killing Jesus, forced them into money lending because every other profession was off limits, locked them out of guilds, slaughtered them in pogroms, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And by the time the 1930s rolled around, anti-Semitism wasn't fringe, it was woven into the fabric of Europe. And when Hitler rose to power, some churches didn't just stay quiet, they participated. Protestant pastors in the German Christians movement cheered him on. Catholic bishops signed Reichskonkordat. I am so sorry, Germans. Anyway, they signed that in 1933, basically handing the Nazis a stamp of legitimacy. The Pope at the time stayed publicly silent. Sure, he helped some Jews escape behind the scenes, but when the world needed a voice, he didn't use his. But here's where it gets complicated, because there were heroes. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, member of the Confessing Church, people who risked everything, their safety, their families, their lives, to save Jews. Christianity wasn't just the soil that fed this genocide, it was also the shelter that protected some from it. Silence, complicity, courage, all tangled together. So I don't think it would be right to say that the Holocaust was done in the name of Christianity, because I think that kind of misses the mark. Hitler wasn't motivated by faith, he was chasing racial purity and total control. The Nazis had their own twisted ideology, and Christianity was more of a tool they used when convenient, ignored when it wasn't. Most Christians weren't orchestrating camps, they were simple bystanders. Complicit through silence maybe, but not the architects. So, there's the evidence. Was this another crusade? I'll leave that up to you to decide. However, the death count, 10 to 12 million.
Deck the halls with gasoline, fa la 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 la. Light a match and watch it gleam, fa la 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 la. Now the school is burned to ashes, fa la 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 la.